Hey everyone, I wanted to make a zero to hero of my Last Epoch adventures, talking about both the progression and some of my first impressions of the game and its current state. I went in completely blind, having read or watched absolutely nothing, not even the trailer, or patch notes, or other content creators. I wanted to see what the new patch was like for myself, so let's dive in. I haven't recorded everything, such as character creation, so our journey starts as an acolyte in the old road. I remarked the game doesn't look all that great in my own Discord, which you can join as well, but it's either GeForce Now, which didn't update graphical settings, or it's something else. I would say the other footage looks fine. It's not the prettiest ARPG, but it's come a long way. Somehow, when I'm in town, I already have 800 plus gold, so I buy myself some silver rings for movement speed, a wand, a shield, boots, and a relic. We're going to be a Necromancer with fire minions, so our first priority is to expand my army by getting extra skeletons. I activate a shrine. These things are pretty fun, and this is gonna get completely out of hand in the endgame, although I don't know that yet. A little later, I have wandering spirits, which I always appreciated in early campaign. There's a bone golem, and it's already sort of a walking simulator at this point. Early damage is definitely lackluster with these skills, but that'll soon change. I encounter my first nemesis, and the loot these guys drop in early campaign is crazy. 2 exalted items and a legendary, that's nuts. I get a helm with 30% elemental resistances and a relic with 80% minion health plus a bunch of other stats. This is a massive boost. I noticed events like this in the campaign happen all the time, making progressing quite smooth. I appreciate those changes, as before this patch I felt the campaign was kind of a slog. I kill the Idol of Loathing, get my 5th minion during the fight, and it's time to be sad because the devs still have this mandatory time travel animation in the game. There's really no need for this, but yeah, it's still there for the last 4 years at this point. Unless I missed the skip button, which please let me know in the comments. However, escape just brings up the menu in offline mode. I got some new boots, picked up the Last Epoch shard, and I make my way to the end of time, the endgame hub in Last Epoch. There, I can choose my mastery. I pick Necromancer of course, and we're off to the races. My golem at this point is a fire golem, which is a hint towards my army composition, which is fire minions, and the necro passive tree is available as well. I reach level 17, you can see I've taken Summon Wraith, giving me some control over where I summon my minions. I drop a unique, Fingers of the Phantomless, which provide a constant speed boost and make me immune to slow. In town I specialize towards archers, so now most of my army consists of archers. I find another legendary for even more haste when I use a potion. While fighting the primeval dragon, you can see 3 fire mages have joined the squad and damage output has significantly improved. I drop my first Weaver unique. These are items with Weaver points which turn into random affixes after killing enemies or when you use a special rune in the endgame. This was already in the game before we knew who the Weaver was, but it's a lot more fun and these things can turn into very good items. This is the outcome, a very usable item with movement speed, resistances and dodge. This is great for my build as well. I open a lost cache, also these were part of the game already, but all these things combined make for a lot of random events, which is exactly what Last Epoch needed. Another boss goes down, this one even faster than the previous one. This army is really ramping up in terms of DPS. I'm going full damage on the passive tree, which of course helps. We finish the Ruined Era by killing the Emperor's remains, where I'm reminded of this weird health bar shielding tech. I don't think this should be in the game as it's so artificial, but fine. This guy basically has 5 health bars. For what? So it doesn't get nuked down at the start? I think for many normal players like myself this just doesn't make sense, but it's obviously not game breaking either. This concludes the Ruined Era. Now that I've picked up some crafting materials, it is time for our first crafting session using the LE crafting system, which is appreciated by many. I enjoy it too, especially with the new additions in endgame. It strikes a great balance between simplicity and depth. Using that same crafting system, I'm using a Rune of Ascendance to get a unique wand, the Reach of the Grave, but I'm unlucky here. I encounter another nemesis, which takes ages to kill in the campaign, but the payoff is worth it. This exalted chest with over 300% increased minion health is an amazing find. I see a green beam, but not a green item, and noticed I messed up my loot filter. I also noticed that once you have your loot filter open and there's loot on the ground, the numbers behind the items correspond with the rules in the loot filter. That is some next level quality of life, and it's much appreciated. In the first part of the clip you see how fast I'm running through the campaign at this point, and I also encounter my first champion afterwards. I'm pretty sure these guys are new as well. Admiral Harton dies, after which I free the dumbest NPC in ARPG history and I make my way to the shore. Here some more Zoom gameplay and I find my first unique idol. It's useless for me and a low roll, but still. I make it to the end of the Imperial Era, defeat both Harton and Zarek once again, marking the end of this part of the campaign. That means we're into the Divine Era. And I want to play you a clip to make a point here. Just listen to the clip. All you hear are sharp clanging sounds and screaming NPCs, and this isn't a cherry-picked clip. I once made a video about how bad the music was in Last Epoch, but despite all its other improvements, the music and sound effects department is very subpar in my opinion. The scores don't fit the game in most situations, the mixing is horrible at times. Just take a listen to this clip of Lyeth. The sort of bells used by the composer are way too loud in the mix, and the melody here sounds like a 6-year-old kid played his synthesizer for the first time. The sound effects overall are so sharp and high on treble and poorly crafted, as if any frequency below 200 Hz was off limits. It's so weird, I really don't know what's going on here, but for me the music and sounds completely ruin the immersion. Of course you can turn it off, I can also turn off the game entirely, but that's besides the point. I play other ARPGs and games in general with music, which often elevates the experience. In Last Epoch, however, it ruins it for me. I get a second skeleton from the passive tree, meaning I now have 4 pyromancers and 8 fire archers, plus 2 permanent wraiths and of course a fire golem. I find an axe with some flat minion damage stats on it, it's pretty useful. I do another attempt at creating Reach of the Grave, but again I got no luck. Powered by a meteor shrine, I enter Mortitas's domain, and this fight is now a complete joke. I do enjoy this actually, I think in the campaign this is completely fine. Right, Jonathan? I complete all quests in Hyperborea, meaning I now have fully unlocked the idol system, granting significant power. Although I don't have many idols at this point. Normally, for me, the campaign ends here, as I also have all my passives, but as this is a new cycle, I still need to unlock the Circle of Fortune. So I have to continue, which I normally wouldn't like, but with all the new changes available in Last Epoch, I really don't mind this at all. We kill Lyeth. I noticed that after this kill, the campaign is heavily shortened compared to before, and within no time I'm at the most poorly telegraphed boss in Last Epoch, Lagon. I can never see what this guy is about to do, which also means that I die, and this is my first death in the campaign. The second attempt I do kill him, progressing the campaign once more. I find the black market key trader for the first time. It's a pretty interesting concept actually, although as I find out later, useless in endgame because these portal charms just drop from monsters. Also, I can't find this guy in the end of time, and at this point in the campaign, aren't the dungeon skips about over? I'm not sure about all of this. I make my way further into Majelka, I get an upgrade from an underground trader, and I get to pick my faction. I'm playing offline via GeForce Now, and I'm playing solo self-found as a result of that. So the Circle of Fortune is my only choice. Reason for offline play is the server disaster of the last 2 launches, which I didn't want to experience again, and I play SSF, so I might as well. I drop another Weaver unique as there are a bunch of those. This time it's a ring and another Nemesis, which drops an Exalt with another great stat, minion health regen. Also the relic and the catalyst from this guy I can use. While there's not much of a reason to continue the campaign at this point, I decide to finish it, kill the final boss, see if there's anything after this, and I think claim my reward, which are +2 attribute points. At least that's what it was previously. I'm not sure that is still the case. I was happy to see there is indeed something new, a small cutscene leading you into the actual endgame, meaning this concludes the campaign. Previously, I felt endgame was quite boring, but these days that's changed quite a bit. Here I'm running one of the first echoes, and the number of random events in echoes makes it a lot more interesting. Nemesis, shrines, champions, exiled mages, lost caches, loot lizards, it's not bad. Then I encounter my first cemetery, which is pretty exciting, as I have no idea what to expect. First impression, the monsters in here are juiced up quite a bit, and those spirits that the cocoons release makes monsters quite dangerous. It makes sense though, this is effectively a league mechanic in PoE terms. I find my first woven echo, the woven beacon. I then die, because the content of these cemeteries is legitimately difficult, way harder than the rest of the maps. While watching my recorded footage, I realized these zones aren't scaled down to character level like the rest of the echoes. It might be a bug, it might be intentional, but it's surely very deadly. Fortunately, loot is transported after you die, meaning I can still pick up that rune of weaving. I do another attempt, I kill the cemetery boss, and I make my way to whatever is in the next room. First, the woven enchanter. I do like this, it's fun to get a bit more power from idols. The devs didn't go overboard with these either, at least not on the acolyte idols. It's fun to keep improving these, hoping for something useful, like endurance or resistances, and I appreciate the option to go directly into your stash, it's well designed. Second, the woven echoes. I'm blind running this game, so I lack all context, but it's intuitive enough and reminds me a lot of the Synthesis League in Path of Exile. I slot in the only 2 woven echoes I found so far without thinking about it too much. Third, I get to visit Mask, the Weaver faction NPC, who tells me to run a woven echo, which I'm about to. Before that, however, the Weaver passive tree pops up, which as it turns out is a bit like the Atlas passive tree, giving you control over which echoes you want to run, which rewards to drop, which random encounters you get, that sort of thing. In the next map, I realize my idols have Weaver potential. I never noticed that when I was enchanting them. Also, you can see a bit what the build looks like. It's a lot of damage, but also very squishy minions. In a Tomb of the Erased, I drop a cocooned item. Not sure this was in the game already, but it's pretty fun. And then it's time for my first woven echo, the Conquered Tower. This one has a bunch of nemesis in there, and then at the top a final very deadly version. I think it's quite nice how these woven echoes have an identity. Clearly a lot of work went into designing these individual woven echoes. I think in a few days you will realize which ones are useful and which aren't, but still they're all very distinct, which I very much like. Every new woven echo you complete provides a weaver point for the passive tree, which is a nice progression loop. I decided to focus at first on spawning more tombs, cemeteries and woven echoes before specializing into league mechanics, and I still stand behind that decision. I keep dropping weaver uniques, these are really all over the place. This time gloves, but these aren't great for my build. And then it's time for the first monolith boss, Abomination. First of all, my build does a ton of damage. Next to that, I reached this boss in no time, or at least it felt like that. Last Epoch went from a focus on timeline stability, which was a grind, into doing fun random things in endgame and earning timeline stability along the way. This feels much better. After killing the boss, I also noticed they got rid of the choices and unlocking different timelines. You simply unlock both of them. That's a welcome change too, because if you previously misclicked here, you had to rerun the entire timeline. I'm finally getting that Reach of the Grave, but this is way too late and a bad affix for my build as well. I'm running fire shredding minions after all. I found a new cemetery, I got new woven echoes to unlock, which I'm looking forward to. This gameplay loop at the start of the cycle is fun, although I'm only a few hours in, maybe 10 at this point. I find some more upgrades, first decent exalted gloves and also another weaver unique. Let's see what affixes I'm getting this time. I run the Soul Foundry, which is basically the gambler as he used to be in a dungeon. This guy is providing decent rewards, a fun unique minion ring and a great exalted ring. I'm equipping both. I then dropped Tolmet's Incorrect History of Etera, but this catalyst looks pretty correct to me. Huge upgrade really, +2 to all minion skills, and that random minion from an era can be decent too. I shatter a relic with plus mage level affixes and craft it on an existing item I already own for +2 mage level. And then it's time for yet another slaughter, this time in the Black Sun. This build is doing work, but it won't last, I can already tell you that. I find very good boots from a nemesis, I complete the Pillar of Skulls Woven Echo and get a bunch of rewards after killing 6 champions. My idol stash is completely filled by Weaver idols as they drop all over the place and are much stronger than regular small idols. In another Woven Echo I get all of the rewards of the surrounding echoes at the end, which is pretty cool. And yet another Woven Echo allows me to exchange Woven Echoes I don't want, 3 to 1. I can appreciate this vendor recipe, it's quite nice. Up next, Lagon with the terrible music. I also die once again, my second death. You guys see the pattern? But second time's the charm and we get some lightning res. I find another cool Weaver unique and decide to test out the Rune of Weaving. It's not even bad, this item, but my current setup is hard to beat, I feel. I run the Forgotten Keep, probably my least favorite Woven Echo so far. The reward, skill level affixes isn't worth the hassle in my opinion. Halfway through endgame, I discover a bunch of changes made to the stash since the last time I played, and I spent 30 minutes or so setting everything up. This is quite amazing, to be honest. You can color, name and buy everything with in-game gold, that I already knew, but these days you can also set affinity, very useful, and the level of granularity here is exactly what I'm looking for. The Emperor of Corpses is next in line on our quest towards empowered timelines, and I got some all-res blessing, which is quite useful. I've been doing Woven Echoes when I can, and my Weaver passive tree is starting to pay off, as can be seen over here. A bunch of drops, and at this point I haven't even done my prophecies. I get to a point in the tree where I can slot in items. I tried a few things, but I'm not entirely convinced yet of the use. I'm sure it's useful, I just haven't figured it out yet. What I am convinced of are prophecies, which work exactly the same as prophecies in Legacy Path of Exile. You take a prophecy, complete an objective and get loot. Fun system, so I'm lining up a bunch of them. I run another new Woven Echo with a bridge, and at the end of this one you get this thing letting you shatter set items for FX shards. Seems completely busted, although I haven't found a great use for it yet. More timeline bosses, this time Herod. It triggers a prophecy, hence all the uniques. It's mostly trash, but it's still fun. When I figure out how to exactly, I will filter out those bad uniques and get some legendary potential ones only. I drop a very good belt from another Woven Echo boss, that's a lot of health on a single item. Gaspar bites the dust and I find a new idol which marks the slow transition towards a full crit build. I kill the last regular timeline boss, those 3 fire dudes of which I have no footage, and then a Harbinger walks in. This is from last patch, the Harbingers, but I didn't enjoy that a whole lot. But now it's just another thing to progress in endgame, rather than the only thing to progress in endgame, which is clearly a huge difference. He dies quite easily and this marks the end of regular timelines. And not only does it mark the end of that, it also marks the end of my first episode, as I've already written 6 pages and I have tons of footage still left. I will combine that plus what my build ended up being in the second episode. I hope you had a good time watching this one. Let me know what you think. Also let me know if you have any suggestions or if I made any errors. Subscribe and like for more LE SSF content. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. Love you all. See you soon. Bye bye.